you really put a whole lot of emphasis on how to make ends meet with relationships and dating and marriage and stuff. How do you feel confident in your ability to maintain? It comes down to the aspect of me having to take care of myself regardless, and women kind of depend on that quality in a man because of the aspect of having children, and maybe she aspires to be a stay-home mom, or maybe she openly just understands that a lot of her time will be dedicated to children. And I can see how some people have that worriness, but it really does come down to proper planning. And the one thing that I haven't been able to touch on is the time lapse aspect of the whole thing, which is, you meet somebody, you talk, you date for a while, you say you've been dating for a while, and let's say January, come find out she's pregnant, but she's just starting off. She's still working, she's still doing all of that, and she has so much time until it gets to the point where she has to take, I don't know if they call it like a prenatal leave or something, but basically she has to take a leave from work because doctors recommend you not to put in so many grueling hours. In those time spans, living in a two-income, single lifestyle structure, you save money to kind of minimize that financial gap and create a secure safety net, And that's a very important thing because she won't be working for a good period of time, until your children start kindergarten, unless you start a daycare, kindergarten kind of thing like that. So that kind of makes it easier in the sense, as a man, if you can take care of your home, you can take care of everyone under you. But as a woman, if you want to go down that route, the best thing you can do is to contribute to the overall functionality of it. I've had a few friends who have gone down that route and have gotten married and so on and so forth. I've known a couple where the woman had her own living conditions and she ended up meeting a guy, but it was kind of quickly. They knew each other in the past, and so he ended up rooming in with her, and they were working and saving and all of that, and they got married and they moved into a house and all of that, and they make ends meet. She did end up having to ultimately leave her job to be a mother, but she found ways to help still contribute. This was back when COVID was around. A lot of people got like payouts if you were in school or things like that. I think she said she got like 900 because of her educational experience during the COVID lockdown, which kind of helped make things easier. Saving is very important. Sometimes it's not about how much you accumulate, it's about how much you save, because the majority of your money is spent, not saved. I also know another couple which, under the context, she had her own living situations, and thus it was kind of the same thing, except in that scenario, her significant other, which I believe was taking on the bulk of the responsibilities. But mind you, this is in the city I came from where, rent is cheap. I got to know this woman before her life became, monogamous, and her rent was only like $700. That's a house, I was talking to my coworkers last night about living situations because I'm trying to get a valid idea of what I can expect when I ultimately find my own place, One guy, he's living with his girl in their mom's house, which is paid for, and he's paying $1,000 a month out of pocket. I know another guy, he's living with his family, helping them out. He's paying, $500 a month out of pocket. I know another guy, he said he has a house. He's paying $2,400 a month out of pocket. So I can safely assume that roughly anywhere between 13 and 18 is a pretty good price range if you ask me. And so if I had to put a scope on it, if I had a perfect world, I would love to have that single style living space where me and my individual other can kind of coexist and be together for the structure of working together. And it sounds weird saying that because I'm making it sound like a plan, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird, it's practical. I feel like I'm young when I say this because it seems weird to say that, like, oh yeah, imagine like me saying this as at my age, like, oh yeah, I'm in my mid 30s, you're in your early 30s, let's room together. Right, like we don't even know each other, and it's like, but given the aspect of me having to do all these things, there is a time lapse. I'm seeing very optimistic, but realistically, unless my life dive bombs into some kind of progressional relationship, I don't expect much change. I expect to still be that living alone guy who just works, pays bills, and sits around playing PlayStation. So the only actual thought I put towards that changing is me mentally trying to keep a space open for working with a person as an adult romantically, which sounds weird because it just seems very fast-paced, no matter how you scope it out. Which isn't terrible, because people who generally have a well-being around each other could get a 2-bedroom apartment and just kind of do their own thing, and all of that. But like I said in previous videos, the financial convenience and dependability could be a grave. If I were to just not want to have interest in all that other stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll just find a roommate, and we just do that, I would feel like, one, I'd have to put serious relationships on the back burner, because what if they move out, and now how am I supposed to afford bills or uproot my life to get a 1-bedroom and all of that stuff? Like, it just seems so complicated, and that's a reason why I wouldn't even put myself up in an offering to be just a roommate, because I would still feel like I'm taking the hit of never trying to do my own thing individually with my own life and relationships. So that's why I say, realistically, if I met a woman and we kicked it off well and we were on good communication and we were comfortable and all of that, there's really nothing that would stop me from being open to like, oh yeah, let's do it. Because I'm taking something that is serious, but I'm making it casual, practical, and just simplified. And that for me works. It really does. I really don't like to have the confusion of debating things to, figure this out. It's like, no, I like to keep it black and white. If I was just standing here and out of nowhere, like the sky like went like golden aura and then just like crashed, just boom, and then like some woman was just like, hey, and I was just like, oh, I really like you. And she's like, I really like you too. What do you want to do? We would go and get a 1-bedroom apartment, and we would work and we would save, and at one point we would be in love. And if marriage was a thing we wanted to do, we would do it. And if we wanted to bring children into that aspect, that'd be a talk we'd have, but we'd probably do that too. Because the more you communicate these aspects of living and stuff, the more you have to put more critical thinking and make more structured plans. Generally, it's easy to just live a life that is stasis without the intimidation and anxiety of progressing it to a more what we idealize as a traditional setting or standpoint. Realistically, same thing with getting a house. It's the same process with getting a house. That's why I say get married, work towards your goals and stuff like that. Get a good solid plan and savings, and it's like you're working now. Yeah, it takes a bit of security to know that you are financially stable, financially responsible, and ultimately capable of maintaining that level of status. One guy, when we were younger, his girlfriend, I had my first apartment. He was rooming with me. Me and him got a 2-bedroom. He met a woman that he worked with, and then he's like, how would you feel if she lived with us? And I was like, honestly, I don't really mind, And so she did, but then she quit her job. Right. And then she sold her car. And then he started to slack on his part of the bills. And it's like, I really don't need that. But that is something that is to be considered in long term as far as just stability, You meet a woman who has a job, she's been working there for like 5 years, you could probably say that she's gonna end up being there for a good portion of life, because she knows what she's doing, she can make it work, and she doesn't have to worry about anything unexpected. I've held good positions in jobs. I have. Mind you, I've only really been fired once, maybe twice. The longest employee history I had is 6 years, because once you learn a job, you just do it daily. So even as now I'm so optimistic about this whole thing, even in consideration, it would still be more admirable if I had been working for at least 6 months to a year, or if I had some form of residual income that was reliable enough to build upon, you know? Modern living is so structured in that sense, you know? Because the one thing you don't want to do is to have someone that you bring into your life about this whole team working plan thing, and then just have them fall off, and, you know, life just got a little bit more complicated, a little bit more messier, and now you have all these life stanzas that are financially crippling, and it becomes less enjoyable and less comfortable. So I guess the key word of that entire little spiel there was reliability. Not dependability, reliability. But as adults, we generally just keep the same job, you know? I say, we do. It's just the quality. So realistically, even if everything was going great and I ended up, you know, getting my car that I plan on getting and getting an apartment that I plan on getting, you know, because that's really what the template is. I'm gonna have to get my own car. I'm tired of walking. It makes things a little bit easier on my part. I'm gonna have to get my own place. Obviously, I don't want to end up living outside. I'm in a different state. I don't have family to room with. I don't have a long-term best friend. Hey, you mind if I crash on your couch for a while? And so I'm not even looking at it to say my back is against the wall. That's just the challenges that I have to face, you know? And then, hypothetically, in a year's time, maybe I myself would have the mentality to be more secure and comforting in my own career, in my own life and routine, to bring on all of those dating and traditional things and stuff that some people dive right into unprepared and all of that. I am all about planning, preparation in a simple, basic form. But you know, you never know. You never know. But it's the truth of it. It's kind of the truth of it, you know? So, like, have you ever had that happen where you had a roommate and they moved out on you? Kinda. For the example of now I have to either find a way to get my bills paid or try to talk to my landlord about decreasing rent because of the aspect of that person being more financially convenient. I don't want a person who's going to be financially inconvenient, you know. I really do think there's a lot of honor in being able to take care of yourself completely. And I think that's the only template where you can truly have a good start in anything, unless you find someone to work with you, put two heads together, and you do and you make things work, you know. That isn't impossible. It's just something that's very structured, has a very weird vibe on maturity about it, but it's completely practical. So I just figured I'd put that out there. It's a sunny day. I gotta work. I had to go back to my little grotto to get some foods because I have to be a little bit more financially conserving and prepared to plan for other things. So yeah, that's all there is to it. In the past, I have always wanted a little bit of help, but this was from women who did not plan on having children, did not plan on getting married. So as a single bachelor guy who has these non-traditional style relationships, like, yeah, we're kind of friends, we kind of are best friend, and, you know, we do this and that, but they want to live with me but make zero contribution, couch potato. Mind you, like I said, these are women who in the past did not have any kind of financial responsibility or any kind of income like that. So it became a complete burden. It felt like a complete burden. And it's weird to say that because of the example I said about getting married and having children. I understand that. But if you don't plan on getting married and you don't plan on having children, I really just don't want you living in my space. And if you are, I would expect you to make some kind of contribution. Why? Because I'm feeding you. Because there's bills and utilities. I don't ask anything of you. It's just the fact that life is not cheap and nothing is free. That's just how I feel about it, you know? People say that to the greatest examples, like, oh yeah, that's how I feel about it. That is really how I feel about it, you know? I know. I had a structured, I lived with a girl for like 6-7 years. We had a structured thing. We worked opposite schedules. We split the rent in half. She took on the gas bill. I took on the electric bill. That was it. There was no splitting of groceries, you know, and all that other stuff that would embrace us into having a shared existence, a shared space. We were still living in the separate, you know, I have my room space, you have your room space. We kind of just share this whole living space, and we pass each other grazing in the kitchen. You know, a really healthy roommate experience. Been there, done that, don't want that. Feel like I'm too old for that, you know? You're like, why don't you just, I had a guy friend who's like, let's get an apartment together. And I've been there and I've done that too. That's why I always say I'm a little too old for roommates. But I'm not old enough to have a mature, practical relationship, because that's what we do, you know? So that's it. That's all. That's it. I'm drinking my coffee. It's Sunday. I got to work tomorrow. I got a couple days off, and I eventually have to walk to the post office to check to see if anything came in the mail, which just sounds great too. So, yeah.